Hey everyone, I wanted to talk about one of the verses that Apostle Paul writes to Timothy. It's 1 Timothy chapter 4, verse 12. And the reason I want to talk about is because I believe many of us have felt at some point in their life, they feel like people don't take them seriously. Maybe you feel that people don't take you seriously or they ignore you because you are young. And that is something a lot of young believers face. And Apostle Paul, he talks about it, and this is what he writes. Don't let anyone look down on you because you are young, but set an example for the believers in speech and conduct and love and faith and in purity. So the reason I love this verse is because here Apostle Paul doesn't tell Timothy, who's a young pastor, about maybe 35 years old, he doesn't tell him that he should force people to respect him or pay attention to him. He tells Timothy to set an example in 5 different areas. The first is speech. Be an example in your speech. The words that you say, not just like avoiding bad language, but make sure that your voice, your words, they lift people up, they help people. You need to be an example in your speech. That's the first thing. The second is your conduct. Anyone can anyone can quote verses from the Bible, but can you really live through those verses? Can your life reflect God's word? That's something that Apostle Paul talks about. That's something that we need to be an example in. Third is love. Christian love is really visible. Can you love people that don't love you back? Can you love people that hate you? Love people that can't give you anything back. That's what true love is. When you love people that might not be able to love you as much. Fourth is faith. Faith isn't pretending that life is easy. Faith is when we trust God with our life. Even though you're going through a hard season in your life, even though you're struggling with something, faith isn't pretending that's not happening. Faith is showing that you trust God with what's happening in your life. Fifth is purity. Today's culture tells us that we should do whatever feels right, but God tells us, and Paul writes us, that we should honor God with all of our heart. Honoring God is living the word that He wrote us, that He left us. And so purity is just having a pure heart, having an undivided heart. That's what true purity is like. And here's something that many people miss. Paul never tells uh, Paul never tells Timothy to force people to respect him, to force people to pay attention to him. He tells them to be an example in all these 5 things that I've mentioned. And become the example, it shows us that the authority in God's kingdom is not based on age, it's based on maturity, on spiritual maturity. Some people might be 40 years old, but they might still be immature. But there's 16-year-olds out there that are living out God's word in their life. And that's where the true authority in God's kingdom, the true influence, that's where it comes from. It's not from your age, it's from your maturity in God. And so maybe all your life you've been waiting for permission to start doing something for God, waiting until you're older, until you know more, until you're more confident. But Apostle Paul tells Timothy that he should start right now and not just force people to listen to him. He is saying that he should be an example. Be an example at first, and then people will follow you. Be an example, and then people will start listening to you. The last message I want to leave you with is that your age does not determine your influence. What truly determines your influence is your character and your maturity.